Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. It is the Bear of Texas, and it is once again such an honor to be back talking sports on the Playmakers Blog podcast. Unfortunately, this week, there is no NBA talk, because as we know, the NBA is suspended, and by God, I am praying not canceled. Although at this point, I really do not know what to believe. Now, my talk today is how this whole coronavirus is affecting sports. And I'm going to explain to you guys how it affects sports. But it's not just the sports themselves that it affects. It affects us sports writers. Because when us sports writers, when we make our living, we do what we love to do, talking and writing about sports, and then the sports all of a sudden cease, well, that makes things really difficult. Now, obviously, I'm not saying it's not to the point where there are no stories to be told. I mean, of course, in sports journalism and journalism overall, there's always a story. However, my point is, when we can't watch sports, that fucking sucks. Because we're bored to death, we're shedding tears, we're in complete boredom, and it comes to the point where we get driven absolutely crazy. And personally, the Bear of Texas, I'm probably on the verge of going absolutely insane. But I'm doing my best to make sure I don't lose my damn mind. So let me get right to it. Let me go ahead and explain how this affects sports. Well, let me go over everything first. The NBA is suspended. The NHL is suspended. MLS is suspended. Just name a few. Now, in Europe, soccer is suspended. I'm not just talking about the Premier League. I'm not just talking about the domestic leagues. I'm talking about the Champions League and the Europa League. Suspended until further notice, but in my case, I have absolutely no idea when it's going to end. And my gut tells me that it won't be for a long time because this morning, the news just got worse in my case. Euro 2020 is not happening this summer. As a matter of fact, it just got postponed till next summer. And this creates a bit of a conflict, which is something else I should talk about. Because next summer is the women's Euro, the Women's European Championship is supposed to take place. And I believe it's going to take place around the same time as the men's. So one way this affects, the coronavirus affects sports, well, it causes serious conflicts because the rescheduling process is not a simple task. It's not like you just go and say, okay, let's just schedule on this day. You have to look at what's already scheduled. You have to say that you have to move the schedule around based on what's already scheduled is nothing but a major understatement. And the worst part is, now to my friend Darnell, this is really good. This really has hurt him the most since he's a basketball expert. March Madness is canceled. The men and women's. Now, in my case, it hurts too because I wanted to participate in March Madness. I wanted to watch it religiously, not just to watch it for fun, but to learn, for experience, to actually, because in my sports writing career, folks, I never really got into college basketball, but I was hoping this year would be the year where I can actually sit back, relax, talk about it, watch the game, and just learn to enjoy it. Now, don't get me wrong, I do like college basketball. I'm just not into it. Like, I'm not into it religiously. I'm not on the level of Darnell. Let me put it that way. Bottom line is, with all these sports being canceled, it absolutely sucks because once again, even though I'm trying not to let this happen, it's driving me insane. So let me go and start explaining. So how does the coronavirus affect sports? Well, obviously the suspensions and cancellations, it's going to cause a financial impact, a huge negative financial impact, but not just on the teams, but also on the fans. Because think about all the fans who paid money to go to the games, to travel and everything. March Madness, for example, the fans who purchased tickets and to the game, the plane tickets, the hotels. Now all of a sudden it's canceled. Think about how this is negatively going to impact them financially. I can only hope and pray that these customers get their money back because if they don't, that's only going to stir the bigger chaos. Lawsuits are going to come out, and that's just another effect of the coronavirus. That the coronavirus causes chaos among sports, among the fans, and among the teams. In the team's case, it's definitely going to be a financial loss because, well, the fans in attendance or the fans go to the stadiums and everything. That's just money being made. So the bottom line is, especially in baseball, and I forgot to mention this earlier, as far as the suspensions go, MLB opening day is suspended to at least the middle of May. That just really, really hurts, and I can't imagine how much that's going to impact baseball teams financially, because attendance rates in baseball stadiums, well, that's just a huge part of the thing. Now, unfortunately for us sports writers, and let me explain to us how it affects us sports writers, because like I said, it's more than just limiting us. We can't do what we love to do and watch sports. Every new season, there's always new stories. There's new things circulating. There's always new things to talk about. So the biggest thing about the coronavirus that affects us sports writers is that we're not really going to get some new news, if that makes sense. Let me explain it that way, like I just did. Every season, something happens, there are a lot of new stories. And when that is not going to happen, it really affects us, because we start to stress and say, what are we going to talk about? We can't just keep talking about the same thing. We can't just keep giving the folks the same thing, giving up old news. We need something new. That's the concept of the news. Give people what they need to hear. Give them something new. Give them something interesting. Make their day. So that's the journalism part. And I already spoke on the financial part when it comes to the fans and for the teams. The negative financial impact. Now, with the NBA being suspended, what really sucks in that case is that it happened so late in the season, when this is the most interesting and most crucial part of the part of the season, of the regular season, because we find out who is going and who is not going to the playoffs. In my case, the Dallas Mavericks were definitely closing in on clinching a playoff spot, and I was excited for it. But on the bright side, I guess it's safe to say that at least before the suspension took place, the Dallas Mavericks did end up beating the Denver Nuggets with a very convincing score, and the Mavericks, with getting win number 40, and I haven't seen that in quite a long time. Now, as far as hockey goes, it's the same thing, because we're entering the most crucial part of the season. Now, as far as my stars go about playing into the playoffs, well, it was definitely a shot in the dark. But the bottom line is, I could not watch hockey, because I'm the kind of fan, no matter how bad a team is doing, I watch the games. But it's not just as a fan, it's as a sports writer, because I want to watch the game so I can get my scoops. A lot of you folks who know me, the Bear of Texas, if you read my articles based on how games went, like when I do a game that is basically sounding like a recap, I don't just write a simple recap. I'll do things like 3 takes on this game, and if you see how I write, I'll put facts. I'll put records that are made. I'll describe the game from a certain perspective, but I won't do it the same way that SportsCenter does. I do things the way a sports writer does. I just put the facts, and I tell it like it is. Of course, I'll have a habit of perhaps pouring some emotion, explaining that this should have happened and not this. But in my case, that's just a habit, and that's just how I am as a sports writer. It's sad. I'm not going to sugarcoat this, folks. It's really sad that the coronavirus just had to ruin things. And right now, with all these players, all of a sudden being affected, like, Rudy Gobert being the first one, and then Donovan Mitchell, and I think another player, several other players might have been infected too. A couple of players, soccer players in Europe. I just found out now, I'm looking at my phone, that Juventus and French midfielder Blaise Matuidi has just recently been tested positive. He's the second player for Juventus to test positive for coronavirus. Now, this panic really should not have happened. It's definitely overreacting. And to say that it's overreacting, it's just a goddamn understatement. Now, I don't want to get too far as this goes, because I don't want to get too political, but going back to how this affects sports, well, the panic really did affect sports in a certain way. Now, am I not happy about all these suspensions and cancellations? Well, you're damn right I'm not happy, because again, I can't watch sports, and furthermore, I can't get the inside scoops. I can't get these I can't get these cool news stories so I can write about them. Again, there's always something to write about. So if I were to say there are no stories at all to be written, some might say I'm just exaggerating, or some are just saying, well, Alex wants to write some new things. Alex wants to watch sports. He wants to write some stories about the future and not really the past. That is true. I'm sure Darnell feels the same way. I'm sure my good friend Wiley Singleton, a.k.a. the Veteran Mysterio, feels the same way. Every sports writer I know probably feels the same way. Not having sports, it really affects us mentally, because when I was in school at the University of North Texas, when I was studying journalism, never, and I mean never, ever, in my wildest dreams, did I ever think there would be a situation that affects the world globally, a pandemic virus that causes an outbreak that ultimately results in the cancellation / suspensions of sports. If I were to say I knew this would happen one day, folks, I'd be the biggest and stupidest liar you have ever seen in your life. That's why I'm not sugarcoating it. This sucks. The most important thing, now, I've already spoken about this affects sports financially, but it also affects the sports writers as well, story-wise. But otherwise, this is going to be historic, because this will not be forgotten. The day that sports were suspended because of an illness, virus, that circulated in the air, that affected all over the world, it caused a media panic crisis. Now, some maybe will blame the media for the panic. Well, that might be true or not, but in my case, it doesn't matter what started the panic, because overall, the panic should not have happened, and the panic is only getting worse. So without sports being around, it's a great effect to us, because a lot of people spend their time watching sports. Watching sports is a hobby. In the state of Texas, baseball is really important. It's our biggest hobby of the summer. It's the best way to pass the time. Even though our Texas baseball teams are not very good, I mean, this whole thing surrounded the Houston Astros with this cheating scandal, and the Texas Rangers being irrelevant for so long, minus those 2 years. But I really want to talk about that, because those 2 World Series years is just it's too overbearable. It's too overbearing, I should say. But the biggest effect about the coronavirus affecting sports, the biggest effect out of them all, is the stress and the worries. Why? Because we're worried about, what if sports do not continue? What if sports have to be suspended for a long time? What if it's never the same? See, folks, that's the biggest impact right there. What if, after what if, after what if, after what if, including doubts, including questions, the fact that we do not know what to expect. That is very scary. That's what concerns me as a sports writer, because I know that we're all affected by this. It's not just us sports writers, it's the fans, it's the teams, and by God, it's also the players. However, while the whole situation absolutely sucks, all we can do is sit back, pray, and be patient and write it out. Again, this totally sucks, but in our case, whining and complaining about it does not help. Makes our situation even more stressful. And at this point, as stressful as it is, we simply cannot afford it. So that's my 3 points, folks.
Hey, this is Darnell, the Playmaker Says. I want to take a moment to thank you guys for listening to us at the Playmakers podcast. Just to let you know, if you're listening to us on iTunes, Apple Podcasts, why don't you go ahead and leave this video. Tell us what you think of the episodes that you listen to, what you think of the podcast in general. If you listen to, Anchor, Spotify, Google Podcasts, iHeartRadio, Radio Public, Castbox, or any other platforms that we're on, follow us. Download the episodes, let us know any kind of way that you want to let us know, whether it's on our Facebook page, the Playmakers Blog Podcast, or on our Twitter page at Playmakers Stuff. Just let us know, because we enjoy interacting with you guys, and we want to show our appreciation. So follow us, like us, let us know how we're doing. And thank you for listening to the Playmakers Blog Podcast.
before I officially go for this week and for tonight, there's one player I really have to talk about. A basketball player by the name of Kevin Durant. You see, I recently, maybe about an hour ago, I learned that he has been tested positive for the coronavirus. Well, that's extremely terrible. And Kevin, my prayers are with you. I don't want anybody being affected by this virus because I know how painful the virus is. I mean, despite the fact, everybody's simply recovering, to suffer from such a terrible illness, it's just very uncomfortable. Now, as I talked about how the coronavirus affects sports, I want to talk about how this virus affects Kevin Durant. As we all know, Kevin Durant has spent the season recuperating from an injury. He left the Golden State Warriors to join the Brooklyn Nets. During his time with the Golden State Warriors, winning two NBA championships. Shortly, he signed with the Brooklyn Nets, and then we all know, the injury took place. I believe he suffered the Achilles tendon injury. And the injury was just so bad. I mean, he hasn't even played this year. It's just been brutal. But not only he's one out of actually three other players of the Brooklyn Nets tested positive for the coronavirus. Several other NBA players. I mean, it started out with Rudy Gobert and then Donovan Mitchell, and now it's Kevin Durant along with several more players. I mean, I can't imagine. It's difficult, but it wouldn't be surprising if another player became tested positive soon. However, I'm hoping that it doesn't happen. But if whoever gets infected by it, just keep in mind, my prayers are with everybody, because I can't tell you how bad I want this whole ordeal to end, because quite frankly, I'm sick of it. I really want sports back. But specifically talking about Kevin, this really hurts because as he was recuperating this season, I was hoping that he would recuperate just in time so he could be selected to represent his country at this coming Olympic Games that will be played in Japan. 4 years ago, Kevin Durant played a huge role in allowing Team USA to bring home the gold. And I know damn sure that this year he can perhaps do it again. Of course, it's as long as he's healthy and he's good to go. Now my prayers could not be more for Kevin Durant. I can't tell y'all how bad I want him to play for the Olympics. I want to watch him play because personally, I enjoy it. Okay, and I'm not just talking about his days, his early days with the Oklahoma City Thunder, because this is the most surprising part. I remember in the first part of this episode, I told y'all I was not big into college basketball. Well, there was a time when I was a teenager when I was actually sort of into college basketball, and that's when Kevin Durant played for the Texas Longhorns. Now the season the season went well. They were the 4th seed in the NCAA tournament. They won the first round match, which was against I think it was New Mexico State. But unfortunately, we lost to USC in the second round, even though Kevin Durant had that 30-point performance. But he would go on to be the National Player of the Year. He won the John R. Wooden Award, the Naismith College Player of the Year Award, and then many other awards and honors. And that made him the first true freshman in NCAA college basketball history to win any of the National Player of the Year awards. That was absolutely amazing. So that's one particular season. It was like the only time I actually watched a full season of college basketball. Watching Kevin Durant play was an absolute thriller. And if I was in college during that time, I would not have been writing articles about this, but I swear I'd probably be a college basketball fanatic by now. Now, unfortunately, it was just one season, because following the season he declared for the NBA draft. And as we know, the Texas Longhorns did go on to retire his number 35 jersey, but it was just a great experience watching him play. But what I really love about watching him, watching him play for the Olympics, he's already won 2 gold medals. That's why I want him to play again, because he's got experience, he's got the mentality, and most of all, he's got the skills and the talent. I know damn well he is more than capable of stepping on the court in the uniform representing his country, to play alongside LeBron James, to go out there and win another gold medal, and to do it in the honor of none other than Kobe Bryant. Because I can't tell you, I mean, this might sound a little funny or corny to say, but I know that Kevin Durant would love nothing more than to win another gold medal and to dedicate it to Kobe Bryant. But not only Kevin Durant, but the entire U.S. men's basketball team. So that's where I wrap it up. So another way to say how this affects sports, well, it affects the players because these players being ill, it's just not a very pretty sight. And I cannot help but pray that them, and along with everybody who's infected, to get well soon. We're all affected by it in some way. We have to be strong. Now, as I wrap it up, I only hope Kevin Durant gets well soon, because I am becoming more and more excited to know that basketball will come back, and when it comes back, I will love basketball no different than I have before. Actually, no, I take that back. I will love basketball more than I ever have in my entire life, and I will never be more excited to see Kevin Durant play again. The impact of the coronavirus. Number one, its negative financial impact. Number two, it's the lack of it takes away all the excitement and the upcoming stories for us sports writers. And number three, it's the stress and worry about whether or not this is going to continue or not, because we all want to know when it comes to an end. And honestly, we don't know. But despite some of these stories saying this may end soon, that there's a vaccine and whatnot, I don't know what to believe. Nobody knows what to believe. And that's overall the third biggest impact. Not knowing what to expect, not knowing anything, just wondering and waiting, asking questions, and not getting the answer that we are truly looking for. That wraps up my segment about how the coronavirus affects sports. And honestly, basically, if you listen to me today, you can tell from my tone that I'm really affected by this. We all are. Folks, my prayers are with everybody. Everybody, please stay safe. Let's all write this out together. Let's all pray for each other. Folks, we got this. Y'all hang tight. We're all going to get through this. God be with you. You all have a good night. I'll see y'all next time.